Show. This is Tim Jones. That's Ken Williams here on FM News Talk 97.1. Merry Christmas week as we head you towards the holiday. Thanks for joining us here tonight. And joining me now, I am thrilled to have, you all should be thrilled to have this next guest on because she's a Missouri native. She is Cassie Smedile, the RNC National Press Secretary from Kansas City, Missouri. Cassie, good evening.
Hey, guys, I already feel like I'm home for Christmas. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Well, we're very happy to have you. Am I saying your last name right? Is it Smedile?
Yes, you got it.
Oh, I got it. Very good. Well, Cassie, thanks so much for joining us on a Sunday evening. But as you know, Sunday evenings are important, right? Because they set up Monday morning. And I bet that's very true in your life. And you're going to have a busy week this week, aren't you? Maybe everybody thought, in the past, I guess everybody was kind of done by now. But this is a president that works almost 24/7. He keeps you all hopping, doesn't he?
Oh, he absolutely does. And my favorite is when Democrats and reporters say, we just can't keep track of him and we're just not used to this routine. And you talk to folks from where I stand, and when I call my parents back home, they're like, we love it. He just never sleeps. He never stops. He never allows Washington to get comfortable in their bureaucracy. It's really, for as busy as it keeps us, it's a lot of fun because we're keeping things moving. And as of this week, we're going to get a really big thing done.
Excellent. Well, Cassie, I noticed that you came from the Hill. You worked for Senator Todd Young, and you just became, I looked up the press release, and just in August. So what is it like being the National Press Secretary for the RNC, especially during this time?
Well, it's a lot of fun. But I have to say one thing that the RNC for the last 8 years, of course, was just trying to expand our majorities and punch back against the Obama administration. And now we've got a policy agenda to push and to help the president get across the finish line. And so I didn't expect to use as much of my Hill experience as I have. But as a Hill nerd, it's been a lot of fun to work on this and be getting this tax reform done from a political perspective. I mean, we've got 200 activists across the country in over 20 states, including Missouri, of course, who have been helping to get this thing done. They're knocking on doors, making phone calls, getting petitions signed, holding meetings with folks to help drive that momentum. And it's really funny that you've still got Democrats who aren't willing to vote for this bill, because I can tell you what, Claire McCaskill, there's a lot of momentum for this tax reform. We know it. We've been on the ground just like a traditional grassroots program. And it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. Yeah,
Cassie, you're right. I mean, the fact that Democrats are gonna forego this opportunity to participate in the first major tax reform in this country since Ronald Reagan of this magnitude, they really do it at their own peril. I agree with you. And so, Cassie, we had every once in a while, we get one of the liberal seminar callers to call into the show, and somebody called in the first hour, and they had their talking points, and we had 5 other callers call in and pick them apart. But, Cassie, for a middle-class family of 4, middle-class Missouri family of 4, you've been following this bill. You said you were a Hill nerd. I'm sure you've been looking at this thing. Is it going to help or hurt the middle class? Who's correct in this as you watch the Sunday shows this morning?
Help. Republicans are looking out first and foremost for the middle class. In fact, I got to tell all your listeners, go to paycheckpresident.com. You can see right there any number of examples of how this is going to be really helpful to average Americans. It's a car repair that you've been putting off. It's putting a little bit more away for retirement savings. It's maybe thinking or dreaming of a family vacation. These are all conversations that a lot of Americans haven't felt comfortable having for the past several years because we were just doing what we could to get by, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact that we are talking about a tax cut that lets people not just get by, but get ahead is a really exciting conversation to have. And again, I remember several months ago when Donald Trump started his quest for tax reform, where did he go? Missouri.
He did.
And what did he say? Claire McCaskill, if you don't vote for this, you don't deserve to be reelected. And here we are coming down to the finish line, and you hear Mom from her. She seems to have no interest in doing anything to help her constituents in Missouri, and she's only helping Chuck Schumer and the Democrat leadership.
Cassie, it would have been, and we're speaking to Cassie Smedile, who is the RNC National Press Secretary. She's a Missourian. She's from Kansas City, Missouri. Cassie, it would have done Claire McCaskill a lot of good to perhaps come back to her home state during September when President Trump visited Springfield, and I went down there with our media team, and we heard what he had to say, and then we watched the next few months, and we analyzed it, and then he came back a few weeks ago, and Claire McCaskill would have seen thousands of Missourians, some of whom did not even get into the event because they packed people in like sardines. She would have seen how excited Missourians. Cassie, how can Claire McCaskill say that she knows this is not good for Missourians when Missourians seem to have figured out that it is good for their pocketbooks?
You're right. She's just been hanging out in her bubble on the set of Morning Joe, going on MSNBC as opposed to being at home, listening to folks, talking to folks. And to your point, you don't have to look very far to catch the enthusiasm and the sentiment of what Missourians want. Frankly, what we need. I mean, when I go home, how many years do you drive down streets and every time I go home, there's one more store going out of business or one more boarded up. And now you've got hiring, job seekers wanted, entrepreneurism up, and people are excited about what's to come. And if she doesn't want to be a part of that, then she should not be a part of the United States Senate.
Speaking to Cassie Smedile, she's the National Press Secretary for the RNC and also a Missouri native from Kansas City. Cassie, shifting gears a little bit, I'm a former prosecutor. That was my first career out of law school, and there's a lot of checks and balances built into our legal system. That's why it is the best and most fair in the world. I am very concerned about what I'm seeing coming out of this Mueller investigation, where he's apparently hired Hillary Clinton's fan club as all of his assistants. And I have a lot of respect for Mueller, but it's starting to chip away every week that I hear about another agent that has a conflict and another agent that was hoping and praying that Hillary Clinton would win and Donald Trump would lose, and another agent who's caught with their hand in the cookie jar, or another agent editing things so Hillary Clinton wouldn't get in trouble. How can anyone take this? The FBI was the preeminent law enforcement group in the world. There's a lot of hardworking men and women that are good people, but it seems like the political apparatus that Mueller has set up is really tarnishing their great history and record.
I couldn't agree with you more. And to your point, it is very unfortunate what these few are doing to the reputation of so many really good agents and people associated with the FBI. And I think at the beginning we heard President Trump say, I'm going to let this investigation go forward so you can see there's no collusion, there's nothing here. And now you've got the growing chorus of Americans who are saying, let's be done with this. Let's get this over with. And now, as you see, to your point, it seems like daily we're not seeing any evidence of collusion with Russia and the Trump administration. We're seeing evidence of collusion with the FBI and Hillary Clinton. And that's increasingly frustrating when you think of the millions of dollars that have been spent on this. And, I think we got to start listening to the American people, start doing the work of getting this agenda passed. And let's put this Russia probe, quote unquote, let's do away with it. I think there were some folks even from the Clinton camp that say we didn't see this back when Clinton was under probe.
Right.
People accepted the election as it was, and they figured out what they did wrong. They got down to business of fixing it for the next time around. This is just crazy that this has gone on this long. And to your point, that now we're really starting to see it for its true colors.
Yeah, it's really run far afield of what its initial purpose was, and it seems like it's never ending. There's no statute of limitations on this thing at all, and they can just keep digging and digging. And apparently the only thing that keeps happening is the Clintons and their cohorts seem to be the ones that were guilty of the things that they're trying to accuse the Trump administration of doing. It's like we're in the opposite world.
Clintons to be caught up in shady stuff. That just doesn't remind me of the Clintons at all,
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Cassie, I'll shift gears again on you. It's amazing. I was saying earlier in the show, so much seems to go on in our nation, our world, that, weeks seem like months. But it was just at the beginning of this last week that we had yet another reminder of what I call first world problems, and Islamic terrorism reared its ugly head once again here in the homeland, once again in New York City. Thank goodness the plot was thwarted. But I think I and a lot of other Americans, and I'm sure you want to get back to this issue of illegal immigration next year. And I know the left wants to emote everything, right? They want to everything's about emotion and feelings. It's a national security problem as much as determining anything else, isn't it?
Incredibly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I got to tell you an interesting story. When I was on my way home to Kansas City for Thanksgiving, I had an Uber driver, and he was he had an audio playing, and it was running through all of these facts about the United States. And I said, what are you listening to? He said, oh, I'm studying for my citizenship test. He had come from Colombia, and his brother was already a citizen. Now he was here on a green card, and he needed to become a citizen so that then he could bring his mom up here, and she could go through the process. And I said, what do you love about the United States? And he said, just pride. Look at me. I get to work, and I get to learn English, and I want to raise my family here, and I have nieces and nephews, and I want to be a part of this great country. And I said, oh, how do you feel about the immigration debate? And he said, I don't know anyone in my family who doesn't believe in legal immigration, because they come from these countries that are absent of the rule of law. And that's why they're escaping these countries. And it's so interesting to me that Democrats try and act like these immigrants don't want to be here legally and don't want to be here and become Americans and go through our process. Is it flawed? Absolutely. But they are being used as pawns, and it's not even accurate. And so I think what you're seeing with sanctuary cities and with terrorism, that people have no patience for this. And I think the appetite is as strong as ever. I can tell you at the RNC, our number one most responded to emails are about that wall.
Interesting.
Reason for that.
Well, I bet you we get back to that issue, that overall issue of illegal immigration, protecting our borders. You know, President Trump is often fond of saying, hey, I'm the president of this country, not the world. I want to work with the world. I want the world to do great, but I want America to do great first. Cassie, I got time for one last subject. I want to ask you to look into your RNC crystal ball next year. And we've talked a lot about Claire McCaskill. And, you know, I think she's in big trouble here in Missouri as far as becoming reelected. But despite what the media wants to feast on, right? I mean, they're so thrilled that you know, the blue state of Virginia elected another Democratic governor. And, you know, okay, what happened in Alabama happened in Alabama, and I call it an anomaly. I don't know that you could ever design that set of facts ever again. They don't want to talk about the overall. I noticed this. The mainstream media, the liberal mainstream media, never wants to talk about the overall Senate map because, and you don't hear, we Missourians don't hear about this a lot. We hear a lot about the Claire McCaskill race, and Attorney General Josh Hawley is running, and a lot of other folks are seeking that nomination as well. I think Claire's in trouble no matter who runs against her. But isn't there a lot of pickup opportunities for the Senate Republicans across the entire country?
You have got it. The map is the best it's been in more than a generation. We have 10 states in particular that we're really focused on, Missouri among them, but those are states that Donald Trump won in 2016 and have a Democrat up for re-election in 2018. Missouri, Indiana, North Dakota, 10 of them. But more than that, I mentioned earlier that we've been on the ground for tax reform. That's really our dry run for 2018. We've got to date, I think I'm breaking some information here, but I think we've got 23 states that are set up and have staff either in them or that they're building.
Wow.
And we're training activists. We've trained almost as many activists this year than we did the entire last cycle. And we've got a goal to more than double that amount before next year's end. And I think we'll get there because there's incredible enthusiasm for people to come out and be a part of this conversation. And so, and of course, to say nothing of the fact that we just had another record fundraising month. So unlike the Democrats that are struggling to pay the electricity bill, we've got lots of money that we are investing right now in states and people on the ground. And we feel that that's really going to be good news for Republicans in 2018. And if you'll recall, the DNC just recently said at one of their meetings, they're very annoyed because everybody kept saying that Hillary had, I think there was something like 77 offices in Florida, and Trump only had 2 or 3. And they still lost Florida because what they didn't realize is that the RNC was on the ground in Florida and had been and had a permanent presence there. And so Donald Trump didn't need 77 offices because he had the RNC to work with him. And we've got that bigger and better than we ever had before in more states across the country than ever before.
I've gotten to meet a lot of your colleagues, and it is an impressive organization. And you know, Cassie, no matter what the liberal media says every day, no matter what you read, you know, happy days are here again for America. And you folks at the RNC just got to keep the Trump train rolling because I think happier days are ahead.
Appreciate it. It just feels good, right?
It really does.
All things good.
Absolutely. Cassie Smedile, who is a Missouri native and national spokesperson, national press secretary for the Republican National Committee. Thank you so much, Cassie, for joining us, giving us so much time. And you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Great to be with you all. Thanks so much.
Travel safe home, too. Take care.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was awesome. The Cassie Smedile with the RNC, Tim
Wonderful.
Jones here on the Tim Jones Show. We've got none other than St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder coming up next in the hot seat. Going to talk about all the budget baloney going on in the county council. Here on the Tim Jones Show at FM News Talk 97.1.
The Tim Jones Show.
This is Armageddon. This is a very big deal.
On FM News Talk 97.1. Log on to 971talk.com for your chance to pick a prize. Each week we'll select one winner.